How do you describe the Xbox 360 to someone born post LeBron to Miami? Well, I mean, you could simply say, yeah, this was the successor to the original Xbox and one of the greatest consoles of all time. Or you could just have them play Halo 3. Yes, the Xbox 360, the console that brought us gems like the console that made you feel peer pressure for the first time because everyone at school was playing the same game that you definitely did not have, but pretended like you did, because you didn't want to be labeled as an untouchable swine at the ripe age of 10. Now, during this redefining era of gaming, where kids were out here playing Gears of War, Halo, Forza, FIFA, and even Viva Pinata, I was playing Mario Kart 64 for the first time and asking myself if I had just discovered Kryptonite without realizing Mario Kart was like, what, 20 years old by then? But that didn't stop me from being cool, because at the age of 12, being cool was more important than making my parents proud. So, to make sure my friends didn't know I was poor and wet my single-ply toilet paper, I would stay up watching gameplay of other people playing these games till like, what, 3 a.m? I would be studying these games so that if my friends asked me something the next day, I would definitely have an educated opinion on it. Math? Science? Who was Albert Einstein? Yeah, who gives a f? If Albert Einstein wasn't a playable character in Viva Pinata, then why should I know who he is? So basically, that was my experience with the 360. If you can even call that an experience, but that's how it started. Eventually, I did get a job and saved up to buy my very first 360. Mind you, it was not new. It was actually a friend who sold me his, really cheap I may add, because his parents bought him another one that was on sale, but forgot he already had one at home, which as a non-white Latino is a problem I still cannot wrap my hand around. But eventually I did get my hands on my very own pro version, the 60 gigabyte of memory version, and a copy of Halo 4, GTA 4, and FIFA. And that was when I fully saw what the 360 was all about. And since that fateful March, I've been a fan and never looked back. But we gotta go into more details because now I'm 30, I'm married, I have a mortgage, and I have knees that crack every time I sneeze. But I decided to go back to the 360, back to a simpler time. And man oh man, was that the right choice? Let me tell you why. First, we gotta start off with the most obvious, the games. And might I just say, holy Dragon Balls. The game list for this console is god level tier, ultra instinct, mega evolution kind of shenanigans. It's the kind of thing prophecies were made for. You got Halo, Gears of War, Mass Effect, GTA, COD, Fable, Bioshock, Viva Pinata. That alone will look better on my resume than the random crap I have there now. You see, what marked this console as one of the best of all time was the amazing library it had. So many exclusives, so much third-party support. The console had you covered. If you liked RPG, you had Skyrim, Mass Effect, Fallout, just to name some. If you liked sports, you had everything from FIFA to My Horse and Me 1 and 2. This console had games for absolutely everyone. And the best part of all these games, they came complete. There was no roadmap to 20 plus updates. There were no in-game purchases or cosmetic packages. The games you bought were guaranteed to be complete from start to finish. Be it a good game or it was complete and you were free to do whatever you wanted with it. I genuinely think this was the last generation that prioritized this above microtransactions and all that shit. Now, games are overflowed with ads, purchases, and frankly legal information that sounds like a threat. And it's quite refreshing now to go back to a time in a console where this was not the issue. The 360 came complete. The game library was ready to be played and enjoyed. Was it perfect? Absolutely not, but that doesn't change the fact it was beautiful. Personally, I never really experienced the vast range of games the 360 offered as a kid. I just simply didn't have the economic funds to do so. My parents, well, they were more worried about having food, water, and a roof over our heads, not on my social status among 12-year-olds. So if I wanted to play or try something new, I had to do what every kid had to do back then. Save, earn money, or just exchange. Or as I like to put it as a 12-year-old kid, this was the only way I could get my hands on a game. But now as an adult, I can buy any game I want, any console I want, any DLC I want. Now, ask me if I do it. No, but that's not the point. I'm able to do something now that I couldn't do when I was a child. I'm able to experience all these games whenever I want and however I want. But now ask me if I do so. Still no. You see, it's not because I don't want to, because I really do. It's just that I'm an adult and now I'm the one that has to worry about money, food, and a roof. Time is limited, but the 360 is not. If I want to play a game, I just have to turn on the console and enjoy whatever game I want until my heart's content or until I can stay awake. And that's beautiful. The game part, not the awake part. The 360 now is a time machine to a simpler time. It's a way to escape modern society and modern polluted gaming. And for 30 minutes or 3 hours, however long you have to game, just immerse yourself in a console in a game of your choice that was made to be enjoyed, not to be economically invested in, but to be emotionally and psychologically devoted to. And that's the added value the 360 gives you now. It's the ability to become that kid again. That kid that was blessed to be part of one of the greatest eras in gaming. A time where you could fully immerse yourself in a game of your choosing and have it restructure your whole personality for that period of time. Or longer if you were one of those kids. So why hesitate? I mean, the 360 didn't, so you shouldn't either. Back then, the only way to play games was by saving, earning money, and exchanging. Now it's easier, it's more accessible now. So why choose modern gaming when it's all about same updates, broken systems, copy-paste releases, innovation that basically is extinct? Or, for short, speaking of games I totally own and did not spend an entire day watching tutorials on how to transfer files to my 360, we can't talk about the 360 without mentioning RGH or JTAG, or for my simpler folks, console modding. You see, Microsoft has this weird obsession with making their consoles almost impossible to mod, so for a while it was very difficult to come across such a relic of a console. Now, you can find a modded 360 easier than you can find a stable relationship, and that's why the 360 is so powerful. If you're thinking of getting a 360 and aren't sure if a modded one is the way to go, let me tell you one word. What the fuck are you waiting for? A modded 360 is absolutely incredible. There are so many things you can do with it. You can install 200 games, open 3, and regret all 200 games. You can turn it into an emulator and realize you were still bad now the same way you were bad before. You can own the entire library and feel nothing. You can skip paying, but pay emotionally. You can customize absolutely everything and end up understanding nothing. You can remove limitations and discover new limitations. You can turn it on, think about your life, and then turn it off. You can have unlimited access to anything and use none of it. Why pay for a console that keeps going up in price? I'm looking at you. Or a console that looks like a fridge? I'm looking at you. When you can pay a quarter of that price and get yourself a console that will give you all the games you ever wanted to play and still make you question your life choices. Now, take that console and remove the only thing that was ever stopping you from doing whatever you wanted with it. It's not about unlocking the 360. It's more like removing the last excuse you had. You can install everything, every game, every emulator, every tool made by someone who clearly understood what they were doing and assumed you did too. So naturally, you download all of it, you organize it, you rename things with more thought than your own kids, even though you'll just end up naming everything, games load instantly, which sounds like progress until you realize loading times were the only moment where you had time to reconsider what you were about to do. Storage doesn't matter anymore, which is quite impressive because now your only limitation is your ability to care, and that turns out to be significantly lower than expected. You install custom dashboards, themes, plugins, things that make your Xbox look like a PC, even though you already have a PC, and choose not to use that for this, which feels intentional, but really isn't. And then something breaks. I mean, not in a dramatic way, just enough to become your entire focus of that day. A game doesn't launch, a file doesn't load, maybe something freezes in a way that feels personal, so you go ahead and fix it. Then something else breaks, and now you're not playing games anymore, you're maintaining a system you modified on purpose. You solve problems you created and feel productive doing it. And after all that setup, all that access, all that control, all that freedom, you end up playing Halo 3 via the disk drive. Because yeah, of course you do. Now let's talk about the ugly duckling in the room. The sorry excuse of a controller. No, not that one, because that one is actually one of the greatest human inventions of all time. I'm talking about the other controller. Now, we can't talk about the 360 without mentioning the Kinect. Not because we want to, but because legally and historically and emotionally, we kind of have to acknowledge that it happened. The Kinect was Microsoft's attempt to remove the controller entirely, which sounds innovative on paper, until you realize the controller was never the problem. But for a brief moment, this was the future. You didn't press buttons anymore. You became the button, which is a level of responsibility I didn't think anyone asked for. It promised full body tracking, voice commands, a new way to interact with games, and technically, it did deliver. It saw you, it heard you, it understood you. It just didn't always respond in a way that suggested it liked you. You had to stand up, you had to move around, you had to clear space, which already made it incompatible with how most people actually play games. Gaming historically is a seated activity. The Kinect said, that. The Kinect wanted effort. The Kinect wanted commitment. The Kinect wanted you slightly out of breath in your own living room, performing movements that felt confident in your head and deeply concerning in reality. For about a week, it was quite exciting. You played Kinect sports, you tried Dance Central, you laughed, you moved, and you realized very quickly that your body does not move the way you thought it did. And more importantly, other people can see that now. And I mean, not just see it, but possibly remember it. And then slowly you stopped using the Kinect. Not because it was really bad, but because it required you to participate. And that's when things fell apart. Because after a long day, most people don't want an experience that demands energy, space, and self-awareness. They want to sit down, press a button, and disconnect. The Kinect offered the opposite. It made you very aware of yourself, your movements, your posture, your limitations. It turned gaming into something closer to accountability, which is not why most people turn on a console in the first place. And to be honest, I don't think anybody was looking to do this on a Tuesday at 9 p.m. But the Kinect was always connected. It was watching us, occasionally reminding us that it still worked, and more importantly, you don't work. And over time, it stopped being a feature and became more like furniture. A very advanced piece of furniture that once convinced an entire generation that standing up to play games was the future, and then quietly accepted that it wasn't. But now it actually makes more sense. Because it turns out that the Kinect was never really meant for solo play. It was meant for chaos, for people, for situations where nobody knows what they're doing, but that's the whole point. Playing it now, I mean, it's kind of amazing. With friends, with family, it's loud, it's messy. Nobody looks like they're doing the right thing, and that's exactly why it works. There's no skill ceiling to worry about, no pressure to be good, just immediate embarrassment and very quick acceptance of it. And it's actually one of the funnest things to play now. Not funny in a clever way, not wow, this is a very good funny game. More like everyone participating here is aware of how ridiculous we look. Everyone is slightly out of breath for no reason and probably willing to admit defeat, but hey, we're all still here, which somehow makes it better than it ever was. So I mean, how do you really describe the Xbox 360 to someone born post LeBron to Miami? You could explain the specs, you could talk about the games, you could go on for hours about why it was one of the greatest consoles ever made. But honestly, none of that really explains it. Because the 360 was never just a console. It was the first time a lot of us realized we were missing out on something and still decided to act like we weren't. It was the first time we lied about playing a game. The first time we formed opinions on things we never touched. The first time we learned that confidence would carry you further than the truth ever did. And eventually, it was the first time we got what we wanted and realized it wasn't really about that. Because now I can play anything I want. I can install everything. I can relive the entire generation exactly how I imagined it. And what do? Just play Halo 3 again. The same way I pretended I did 15 years ago. Except now, I actually can. Without lobbies, without online play, just campaign and me and my wife. And weirdly enough, that's all I ever needed. Thank you so much for watching, guys. You know, I've been having a lot of fun going back to these retro consoles. I think the 360 is probably top 3 in my list. But yeah, I have more videos planned out. Hope you guys enjoyed this and see you soon.